My name is Marcus Chen, and for 15 years, my family thought I was just a janitor at Byte Tech Solutions. Every Sunday dinner was the same: subtle jabs, disappointed looks, and not-so-subtle suggestions about real careers. But what they didn't know was that while I was mopping floors at night, I was building something that would change everything. Marcus, you're 38 now. My mother sighed during our weekly family dinner, pushing her barely touched pasta around her plate. Don't you think it's time to find a real job? I kept my eyes on my food, letting the familiar sting of her words wash over me. Across the table, my sister Olivia adjusted her engagement ring, making sure the massive diamond caught the light. As a senior executive at Goldman Sachs, she never missed an opportunity to remind everyone of her success. "Mom, leave him alone," Olivia said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Not everyone is meant for success. At least he's honest work." The way she said honest work made it sound like a terminal illness. My father didn't even look up from his phone. As the former CEO of a Fortune 500 company, he'd long since given up on having a son who would follow in his footsteps. "Byte Tech Solutions," he muttered. "Cleaning up after real technologists, at least you get to be near success, even if you'll never achieve it." If they only knew that Byte Tech Solutions wasn't just where I worked. It was where I learned everything I needed to know about building my own tech empire. It started 15 years ago when I graduated with a computer science degree from MIT. My family expected me to join a prestigious tech company or follow my father into corporate leadership. Instead, I took a job as a night janitor at Byte Tech Solutions. "He's lost his mind," my mother had wailed when I told them. An MIT graduate choosing to be a janitor? Where did we go wrong? But I had a plan. During my final year at MIT, I developed an algorithm that could revolutionize how artificial intelligence processed natural language. The big tech companies would have bought it immediately, but I wanted to build something of my own. I needed time, access to high-end computing resources, and most importantly, invisibility. Byte Tech Solutions had everything I needed. As a night janitor, I had access to their entire building. No one paid attention to the quiet guy with the mop and bucket. No one noticed when I spent extra time cleaning the server rooms, studying their setup. No one cared when I stayed late, allegedly to polish the floors. During those late nights, while everyone thought I was just pushing a broom, I was learning everything about how a major tech company operated. I saw their mistakes, their inefficiencies, their missed opportunities. More importantly, I had unlimited access to their discarded equipment. Perfectly good computers and servers they threw away during upgrades. In the basement of my small apartment, I built my own mini data center from their cast-offs. Every night after my shift, I worked on refining my algorithm, testing it, improving it. I lived on coffee and determination, sleeping just 4 hours a day. "At least get your own apartment," my mother would plead during family dinners. "Living in that tiny basement apartment at your age. What will people think?" What they didn't know was that I owned the entire building. I bought it through a shell company when my first patent was quietly approved. The tiny basement apartment was just my cover. The real magic was happening in the secured upper floors, where I had built a state-of-the-art development facility. I called my company Phoenix Intelligence. The name was my private joke, rising from the ashes of discarded technology and overlooked potential. For 15 years, I operated in complete secrecy, using a network of shell companies and private investors who never met me in person. The janitorial job was my perfect cover. Who would suspect the quiet janitor was actually running a cutting-edge AI company? My algorithm evolved into something revolutionary, an AI system that could understand and process human emotion in real time. While other companies were still struggling with basic natural language processing, Phoenix Intelligence had created something that could understand the nuances of human communication, the subtle undertones of emotion in written and spoken words. Major tech companies started licensing our technology through our shell companies, never knowing they were dealing with the janitor who cleaned their offices. Byte Tech Solutions, my employer, became one of our biggest clients. I would sometimes sit in their lobby, supposedly on my break, watching executives rush past me to meetings where they discussed the brilliant technology from Phoenix Intelligence. As our success grew, I maintained my cover perfectly. I drove a 15-year-old car, wore second-hand clothes, and lived exactly as everyone expected a janitor to live. Every dollar I earned went back into the company or into secure investments. My family's disdain became my perfect camouflage. But everything was about to change. Yesterday, Phoenix Intelligence filed for its IPO. After 15 years of secrecy, the world would finally know who I really was. The timing wasn't my choice. Going public meant I had to reveal my identity as the founder and CEO. And tomorrow was my sister's wedding. The Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom sparkled with extravagance. My sister Olivia had spared no expense for her wedding, inviting over 500 guests, most of them business executives and social elites. I adjusted my simple black suit, bought off the rack as everyone expected from a janitor, and found my seat at the far corner of the family table. "Marcus," my mother hissed as I sat down, "couldn't you at least have bought a new suit for your sister's wedding? And that tie?" She shook her head, looking around to make sure none of her friends had noticed her embarrassing son. I touched the blue tie I was wearing, handmade Italian silk that cost more than my mother's entire outfit. But of course, she assumed it was a cheap knockoff. Sorry, Mom, it was the best I could afford. The wedding ceremony was exactly what you'd expect from a Goldman Sachs executive marrying a tech billionaire. Olivia floated down the aisle in a designer dress that probably cost more than what they thought I made in a year. Her fiancé James stood at the altar in a custom tuxedo, looking every bit the successful entrepreneur they all thought he was. What none of them knew was that James's company was on the verge of collapse. His revolutionary AI technology was years behind what Phoenix Intelligence had already developed. In fact, his company had recently begged Phoenix Intelligence for a partnership, not knowing they were pleading with the janitor who cleaned their competitors' offices. During the reception, I sat quietly, watching the celebration unfold. The CEO of Byte Tech Solutions was there. He walked right past me without a glance, never recognizing the janitor who had mocked his office floors for 15 years. Half of Silicon Valley's elite were in attendance, and none of them had any idea that the quiet man in the corner owned technology that made their companies possible. And now, the wedding planner announced, "Please turn your attention to the screens for a special presentation about the happy couple." The massive screens around the ballroom lit up with a glossy video about Olivia and James' perfect love story. But suddenly, the video flickered and changed. A breaking news alert appeared. Breaking! Phoenix Intelligence, Silicon Valley's most secretive company, files for IPO. Mysterious founder finally revealed. I watched my family's faces as my photograph appeared on the screen. Not a recent one. The same ID photo I'd used at Byte Tech Solutions for 15 years. The news anchor's voice filled the ballroom. In a shocking revelation, Marcus Chen, known to many as a janitor at Byte Tech Solutions, has been revealed as the founder and CEO of Phoenix Intelligence, the AI company valued at $8 billion. Sources say Chen has operated in complete secrecy for 15 years. Building one of the most innovative tech companies in the world while maintaining his cover as a maintenance worker. The champagne glass slipped from my mother's hand, shattering on the marble floor. My father's face had gone completely white. Olivia, the bride, stood frozen in her designer dress, her perfectly made-up face twisted in shock. The news continued, detailing Phoenix Intelligence's revolutionary technology, its massive client lists, and its impact on the tech industry. Every major company in that ballroom was named as our client, including Byte Tech Solutions and James's failing startup. Additionally, Phoenix Intelligence owns the patents for the AI technology currently used by over 70% of major tech companies. Industry experts predict the IPO will make Chen one of the 20 wealthiest people in the world. James, my new brother-in-law, swayed slightly. His company's survival depended on the partnership they begged for last week. Now he realized he'd been pleading with his brother-in-law, the janitor he'd mocked at every family gathering. I stood up slowly, straightening my cheap tie. The room had fallen completely silent, all eyes turning to the corner where the janitor sat. My mother's hands trembled as she reached for me. "Marcus, how? Why didn't you tell us?" I smiled, remembering every dismissive comment, every mockery, every time they'd made me feel small. Would you have believed me? When did any of you ever believe I could achieve anything meaningful? My father stood up, his business instincts kicking in. "Son, we should talk about this. As a family, perhaps we can discuss some synergies with our companies." "Actually," I said, checking my watch, "I have a board meeting in an hour. We're discussing which AI patents to license and which ones to revoke." James's face went even paler. His company's survival depended entirely on Phoenix Intelligence's technology. "Congratulations on the wedding, Olivia," I said softly. "Consider your husband's company's partnership approved. Call it a wedding gift from the janitor." I walked out of the ballroom, leaving behind the shattered illusions of my family's perfect world. My phone buzzed continuously. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk to the janitor who had outsmarted Silicon Valley. Outside, my driver waited with my real car. Not the old Honda I'd driven for show, but a custom Bentley I'd never used before today. As I settled into the leather seats, I thought about the past 15 years. The midnight coding sessions, the silent victories, the painful family dinners. My mother's words echoed in my head. "When will you make something of yourself?" I had made something of myself, something beyond their wildest expectations. But more importantly, I had done it my way, on my own terms, without their approval or support. The next morning, every major news outlet carried the story. The billionaire janitor, how one man built an empire in secret. My family's phones rang constantly with calls from friends and business associates, all trying to process the revelation that the man they'd mocked for years was now one of the most powerful figures in tech. Olivia cut her honeymoon short, rushing back to try to salvage relationships with clients who now knew her brother owned the technology their businesses depended on. My father's business friends avoided him, embarrassed by how they treated his son. My mother's social circle buzzed with gossip about how she failed to recognize her own son's genius. But I didn't care about their reactions anymore. In my office, my real office, not the janitor's closet, I looked out over the city skyline. On my desk sat a frame containing my old Byte Tech Solutions janitor ID, a reminder that success doesn't always wear a suit and tie. My assistant entered with a stack of messages. "Your family has been calling nonstop. Your sister left 15 messages about urgent business matters. Your father wants to schedule a dinner to reconnect. And your mother." I held up my hand, smiling. "Tell them I'm busy. I have some floors to mop." The truth was, I didn't need their acceptance anymore. I had built something remarkable, not despite their lack of faith, but because of it. Their dismissal had given me the perfect cover, the freedom to work without expectations or interference. As I sat in my office, reading the flood of news articles about the billionaire janitor, I realized that success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And sometimes the best way to do that is to let them underestimate you. From my window, I could see Byte Tech Solutions building, where I'd spent 15 years watching, learning, and building my dream. Tonight, someone else would mop those floors. But the lessons I learned there, about patience, humility, and the power of being underestimated, would stay with me forever. After all, every empire has to start somewhere, even if it starts with a mop and bucket.